Okay, Avery just gave me the thumbs up that we are now live.
Okay. Good afternoon. I am Chair Kite, and I would like to welcome you to the November 10th, 2021 Historic Resources Commission meeting. The HRC is a quasi-judicial body that is governed by North Carolina General Statutes, the City of Asheville's Unified Development Ordinance, and Buncombe County Ordinance. We are authorized to hear requests for certificates of appropriateness for alterations, demolition, new construction, and other work within historic districts, or for the alteration and demolition of historic landmarks, and other duties, including preliminary review of subdivisions as specified in the ordinances for the HRC. Since we are meeting virtually, please note that members of the public can watch the live stream on the city's YouTube channel and or participate by phone by calling 855-925-2801 and entering code 9384. For those wishing to give public comment during an agenda item, please call in and press *3 to enter the caller queue. I will now ask commission members to introduce themselves and to say a sentence or two about their background or experience as it relates to serving on the commission. Vice Chair Sprang.
Hello, I'm Emily Sprang. I got a master's degree in historic preservation, and I've been working in the field of architectural and interior design for residential construction.
Commissioner Lazaris.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Gail Lazaris. I'm a SOI qualified archaeologist with a background in National Historic Preservation Act review and experience in renovating historic homes.
Commissioner Hornaday.
I'm Will Hornaday from Albemarle Park, local historic district.
Commissioner Gardner.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Gardner. I have a master's degree in anthropology and archaeology with special interest in the Asheville area.
Commissioner Oliva.
You're muted, Commissioner Oliva.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Sue Oliva. I have a PhD in American history, and I've worked in the field of historic preservation.
Commissioner Vaughn.
Good afternoon. My name is James Vaughn. I have a master's in public administration from Harvard University. I've restored historic homes and got projects on the National Register of Historic Places, and I've served on a quasi-judicial body with the California State Bar, their Committee of Bar Examiners Moral Character Determination.
Commissioner Watkins.
Hi, I'm Shannon Watkins. I'm a graduate of UNC Asheville with a bachelor's in history and political science. I'm a real estate broker of 11 years in the Asheville area. Thank you.
Okay. I am Emily Kite, a local architect. We will consider the minutes from the October meeting of the HRC. The meeting minutes include findings of fact and conclusions of law. Are there any corrections to October's minutes? Can I get a motion?
I'll motion to accept the minutes.
A second?
I'll second.
We will vote by roll call. Vice Chair Sprang.
Aye.
Commissioner Lazaris.
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner.
Aye.
Commissioner Oliva.
Aye.
Commissioner Falcon.
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn.
Aye.
Commissioner Watkins.
Aye.
Commissioner Falcon, I think I forgot you in our introduction.
You did.
My list. I'm really sorry. I'm going to let you take a minute to introduce yourself. I apologize for that. I skipped right over it on my list. I'm very sorry for that.
That's okay. I'm Georgine Falcon, and we moved to Asheville about a year ago. Prior to that, I was on the Elizabeth City Historic Preservation Commission for about 13 years, and we renovated a 1798 house in Elizabeth City and got a PNC Caraway Award of Merit for our efforts.
Thank you. I apologize for that.
Sure, no problem.
I understand we've got an amendment also to the August 2021 minutes.
Yes, so if you had an opportunity to review the minutes for August that were in the commissioner packet, if you look at page 7, somehow during the, on section 1, page 7, when the motion was being read, if you all will recall the application at 240 Pearson Drive, where part of the request was to install metal gates between 2 stone pillars that were going to be constructed on either side of the driveway. The actual gate got left out of the CA request when it was being read aloud in the motion. And so that was brought to my attention. So we just need to make that correction just on page 7, section 1, to include language to install 4-foot tall metal picket gates between pillars matching existing fencing on the site. And I think I talked to Janice earlier, and you all can just agree to amend the minutes as such. Is that right, Janice?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So to add that information, what you just read.
I will make a motion to amend the August minutes.
Second, Vaughn.
Okay, we'll vote by roll call again. Vice Chair Sprang,
Aye.
Commissioner Lazaris,
Is it acceptable to vote if I wasn't at that August meeting?
Yes.
Okay, then aye.
Commissioner Hornaday, Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Oliva,
Aye.
Commissioner Falcon,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye.
Commissioner Watkins,
Aye.
myself, aye as well. We will now begin the evidentiary hearings for the items listed on the agenda. As a quasi-judicial proceeding, the HRC is not setting policy, nor are we soliciting public opinion on the desirability of an application. The HRC hears and considers evidence presented and applies the standards set forth in the guidelines and the standards of the specific historic district for that application. The HRC must make its decision upon competent, material, and substantial evidence to determine the facts of the hearing. The HRC will use judgment and discretion to apply the standards contained in the relevant guidelines to the facts. The commissioners, in voting for an item, will not have a fixed opinion that is not susceptible to change, will not have a conflict of interest, and will not have engaged in ex parte communication regarding the application. The following are rules for speaking. This meeting is open to the public, but participation is limited to interested parties who wish to provide comment or testimony regarding the proposal. If you will be speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and how they relate to the relevant historic district standards and guidelines, not personal preference or opinion. Witnesses must swear or affirm their testimony. At this time, I will administer the oath for all individuals currently present in the meeting. It's quite possible as we move through the agenda that we'll do this swearing in for future applications if they've not quite joined the meeting yet. So give me just a little bit of time and we'll see who's here so far. It looks like we've got John. I don't know quite how to spell or say your last name.
Casera.
Casera, thank you. And Carl Goodsmanson.
Yes, it's Kim Miller sitting in for him.
Kim, okay. And Michael McDonough, I see that you're here. Scott Bartholomew. And Stacy Dansky.
It looks like that's everybody for right now.
Yeah, that's what I see too. I will read the oath, and then I will ask each of you individually by name to affirm the oath. So I will read first, and then we'll go one at a time. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the information you present during the hearing for a certificate of appropriateness or preliminary subdivision approval before the Historic Resources Commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Stacy Dansky. Stacy, if you're on, you're on mute.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you. Michael McDonough.
Yes, I do.
John Kucera.
Yes, I do.
Carl Goodman. Kim Miller.
Yes, I do.
Okay. And Scott Bartholomew.
Yes, I do.
Alex.
I do.
Shannon.
I do.
So you're going to speak? All right. I think that's got everybody so far. And we're going to move to the first item on our agenda, which is old business in Montford Historic District at 37 Watauga Street. And I'm going to turn it over to Alex for our report.
Thank you, Chair Kite. I'm just going to kind of briefly recap this and then recap a little bit of the discussion from the last meeting that I missed. And I'll let Shannon chime in if there's anything else that I'm leaving out from the discussion last go around. So I didn't include a ton of documents in my slide presentation, but I have the project folder open. So at any point, if there's anything anybody wants me to pull up while we're going through this, just let me know. So just as a frame of reference, this is the house primary structure at 37 Watauga Street. There were a couple of new drawings submitted in your packet. So this is Mr. McDonough submitted some drawings just to kind of show the scale of the structure on the sides where it clearly reads as one story. It's my understanding from the discussion last time that there seemed to be consensus around the commission supporting the redesign of the structure with just the garage appearing as a basement level facing the primary structure. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that just right out of the gate. But this is just to give you guys some info on the new drawings that are in your packet, because obviously we've kind of accumulated quite a number of drawings in that folder at this point. So Mr. McDonough also submitted this drawing to give an illustration of how if the structure here that's in the proposed location, how it would appear in the landscape versus a structure of the same height and massing in the location of the structure that's shown on the Sanborn map, which is here, way back on the alley. I am tempted to stay fairly neutral on this, but I will say that in times past, the commission has kind of I wouldn't say treated the standard more generally, but I think that there are reasons to support the accessory structure going in the proposed location, primarily because the area where it's being proposed is like an area that's already been disrupted. It's hardscaped. It is making the structure more usable from a functionality standpoint. I think historically speaking, a lot of the way that, or many of these little one-story sheds, outbuildings that were historic to the district were used as, either like a little small barn or work shed or something that they could access with a, wagon or some kind of vehicle, along an alley, like whatever, just a very informal kind of use. Whereas what we tend to see today, obviously, is the need for habitable space, which I think, is certainly oftentimes more desirable and closer to the primary structure. And we can all, I think, understand why that might be for various reasons. Shannon, go for it.
Just in thinking too, having the benefit of the last month to think about this application a little bit more. I know there was some discussion last month about hardship and what is the hardship with locating the structure, in that location. And I think just based on my experience with Board of Adjustment and other cases where we look at hardship extensively, there is this approach to thinking about these
these properties and how they can be adapted to a modern lifestyle. So even if this were just a simple garden shed, I think there's a question of like, what is how practical is it for it to be located, such a far distance from the primary structure, uphill. So I think these are some hardship-related considerations that the commission could take into consideration.
Thank you, Shannon. I think you articulated what I was trying to say in a better way. I think too, it's not like they're proposing to the new structure in a location that is completely out of character with the relationship between historic accessory structures and primary structures in the neighborhood. There are plenty to be found that are at the end of a driveway, immediately behind a house. And so I do feel like the proposed location is appropriate. So that being said, I haven't noted any concerns. The other thing I would point out about the proposed location of the accessory structure where it is now is that it also will screen the pool from view to some degree, which I think is helpful. So that the only other thing we've asked for is a very minor thing, which is just the manufacturer specs for the mechanical unit whenever those are ready, which oftentimes that's way in the future for a project like this, but we just included it in the list of information we need to kind of final out the CA approval. So I'm not noting any other concerns, but happy to answer questions if the commissioners have any.
Alex, my belief is that we were presented with a property that had problems because there was work done that was not, brought before us before. The goal was to try and mitigate that. Instead, we aggravated it by adding a pool, and then to add insult to injury, we're putting up an accessory dwelling to hide that, rather than putting the structure where it was historically. For those reasons, I will be voting no on this proposal.
Okay. I think I totally understand where you're coming on the previous disturbance. I think it did help the application that they revised it to put the pool in the location of area where it was previously disturbed, and whether or not the commission would have approved a pool in that location in the first place is a little bit hard to say, but I think that is something for you all to consider if you haven't already.
Commissioners, are there other questions for Alex? Michael or Stacy, is there any other information that you'd like us to consider before we open for public comment?
Me, Michael?
Yes.
Oh, hi. Hello, commissioners. Thank you, Alex and Shannon. Yes, I would like to just revisit the two new drawings. Alex, if you could put up maybe the Sanborn location side view drawing. Yeah, so there was a bit of discussion at the end of last meeting about the appropriate location for an ADU. Commissioner Vaughn mentioned that he thought that it was being proposed to hide the pool. It's being proposed to for other reasons, to garage the cars and to create an accessory living space. So the question is, where's the best location for it? So in our previously submitted application drawings, we proposed a location that's roughly in line with the adjacent ADU. And by the way, that middle building is actually the adjacent property owner's accessory dwelling unit. So that roof line in the distance between the two structures on the left and right, that's the neighbor's dwelling or accessory dwelling. Where we have proposed ours to be is very similar location. So the point of this drawing was to show what the ADU would look like, roughly where the Sanborn map showed a historic structure. And it's to show that location relative to the main house and relative to the adjacent property owner's accessory dwelling unit. And it's also to show the scale of what that accessory dwelling would look like as a 1.5 story as allowed. So you can see, because the lot slopes up, by putting it in the Sanborn map location, the allowed 1.5 story structure ends up being taller than the primary structure. So it seems like for two reasons. One is because of the topography, and two, the remoteness of it, that putting the structure on the Sanborn map location would suggest that this is no longer an accessory structure, that it's another primary structure. It's so far away from the primary structure that it loses its accessory status. So, and so that's the point of this drawing. Alex, if you can bring us to the other drawing right before that one, the other recently submitted. This is no different than what was previously submitted, other than the ground plane is shaded darker, so we can focus on circle back on the discussion about, does this meet the standards for 1.5 story maximum accessory dwelling, accessory structure. So the previously submitted drawings were line drawings and had a lot more information. So this drawing kind of got rid of some of that other information and focused just on ground plane and building height, and just to make the case that that by any measure, building code or zoning regulations, this meets the standard of a 1-story building with a basement. I did submit another drawing about 20 minutes ago that may not be introduced, but I emailed it to Alex, and it was showing there. Yeah. So this goes back to that previous Sanborn map drawing. Thank you, Alex. So this basically just clarifies what our proposal is. And you can still see the adjacent accessory structure in the background, and our proposed accessory structure shifted maybe 6 or 8 foot farther towards the back of the property. And so this drawing here is to compare to the previous Sanborn map that shows the accessory structure towards the back property line. And I think all the other items in the staff report regard the swimming pool. It seems like there's nothing new we need to talk about or present, other than maybe coming through some of the details. So I'm going to leave it right there.
Thanks, Michael. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I have no questions for the applicant.
I'm going to open the floor for public comment.
Chair, there are no callers in the queue.
Thank you. We'll close the floor for public comment. Is there any further discussion by the commission that needs to happen? Like to happen? Heard some concerns from Commissioner Vaughn, which I appreciate. I do think the drawings, Michael, that you provided are helpful in illustrating the comparison between the two locations. I think it gives me better comfort in locating the accessory structure in your preferred location, closer to the primary structure. I think adding the massing and the scale of the adjacent properties ADU is also helpful in seeing how those two will kind of relate to each other in overall kind of height and scale. So I appreciate that. For sure, I like that the sort of streetscape view, there's some integrity there with regards to the topography, the sort of natural topography of the property, even though farther back we've got some disturbance that's obviously doesn't, that we're sort of having to deal with where the swimming pool is. But I'd be interested in hearing other commissioners' thoughts or concerns if we are getting ourselves closer to a place where we're ready to make a motion.
I am comfortable with the project as it is and feel like it aligns with the standards. And as you pointed out, Chair Kite, the additional information has been really useful.
I agree that it was helpful to do the exercise of, seeing that accessory structure back where the original was. In this particular case, I know that the guidelines say that we should retain the original positioning if there was a previous building, but in this particular case, I feel like it is oddly far away from the home, and that I feel in this case it would be better to follow the historic pattern of the neighborhood in general, rather than this particular lot. And in this neighborhood, there's, quite a few precedents of accessory structures located in this manner. So I also feel more comfortable with the project as drawn.
Respectfully, Commissioner Sprang, Alex, could you pull up the Sanborn map, please? If you look at the location of the accessory dwellings and I don't have an arrow, but to the property to the right, to the upper right, to the back of the property, those three for this neighborhood all show them at the far back corner, as far away from the house as this one is here. So historically, that's the pattern, not the one-off that the applicant has been using, which is to the left of the subject property.
That would be a rather small sampling. I'm considering the neighborhood overall in general. Many of the neighboring streets across the street on Watauga, those buildings are not as far back either.
I agree with staff and Chair Kite and many others that it would be nice if the placement was in the back, but in this case, I can see the flexibility in allowance of moving it in. And I agree with Chair Vaughn a lot on this, but I think in this case, there's more benefit to the ADU's placement closer to the home for current usage. So I'm going to vote for.
I agree with Commissioner Hornaday, Commissioner Spring, and the staff. Thank you.
I also agree, and I appreciate that you did the rendering of the building in the back, which I was questioning what that would look like if it would be higher than the current house, and we can see that it is.
I also agree. The more I thought about this one, and I know I made this comment last month, but just the topography of that back corner and how even in like the photos, you can see that it's starting to erode pretty naturally. I feel like that alone makes me sway way more towards, being okay with it closer to the house.
Commissioners, are we ready for a motion?
Madam Chair, based upon the evidence presented to this commission, including Exhibit A, application and new construction worksheet, 5 pages, Exhibit B, project description and photographs of the subject property, 8 pages, Exhibit C, site plan and floor plans, 2 pages, Exhibit D, elevation and section drawings, 2 pages, Exhibit E, site survey received August 23rd, 2021. Exhibit F, revised drawings and plans, 4 pages, received August 24th, 2021. Exhibit G, additional photographs of subject property, 9 pages, taken by staff August 25th, 2021. Exhibit H, 2016 images of the rear yard, 2 pages. Exhibit I, 2020 images of rear yard, 2 pages. Exhibit J, window specifications, 19 pages, received to September 7, 2021. Exhibit K, door specifications, 29 pages, received September 7th, 2021. Exhibit L, alternative site plan, received September 9th, 2021. Exhibit M, revised plans, 5 pages, received September 23rd, 2021. Exhibit N, 1917 Sanborn Fire Insurance Map. Exhibit O, revised plans, 8 pages, received October 19th, 2021. Exhibit P, revised site rendering, received November 10th, 2021. And Alex just confirming that that was the last one. I saw you adding in P.
Yes, all good.
Okay. And the commissioner's actual inspection review is subject property. All members accept. I move that this commission approve the certificate of appropriateness based on the following. 1, that the application seeks after the fact approval to alter the topography of the site in the rear yard to construct terraced mortared stone patios, retaining walls, stairway, and metal picket fence. In area of existing stone patio and retaining walls in the rear yard, remove retaining walls and stairway. Construct a 22-foot by 14-foot swimming pool with stone decks surrounding. Construct 63-inch tall and 18-foot long by 5-foot wide stone planter on north side of pool. Construct stone steps from pool deck to stone terrace. Install 7-foot 9-inch by 7-foot 9-inch hot tub in existing patio area. Construct new 42-foot long section of 60-inch tall retaining wall finished with stone veneer and install 36-inch tall metal fence at the north end of the hot tub terrace. Remove existing section of retaining wall, excavate approximately 1,145 square foot area of rear yard and construct a new 2-story, 1,152 square foot accessory structure in rear yard between alley and pool area. Structure will have pebble dash and cedar shake siding and Tamco Heritage asphalt shingle roof in dark gray color matching primary structure. North elevation will have hipped roof, overhang with 8-inch by 8-inch wood support posts, wood decking, and tongue and groove ceiling. Pedestrian entrance on west elevation will have hipped roof, overhang with wood brackets. Windows will be Lincoln 6/1 SDL aluminum clad double hung and 6 light casement. Garage doors will be 8 light SDL aluminum clad French doors and 4 light anodized aluminum. Garage doors will be custom wood panel. Repair existing concrete slab between new accessory structure and primary structure. Remove existing concrete stairway and replace with stone stairs. Construct new 1 by 8 foot tall by 40 foot long pebble dash retaining wall with 3.5 foot tall wood gate and stone steps to patio between accessory structure and primary structure. Relocate existing section of wood fencing adjacent to accessory structure. All work will be in accordance with attached drawings and plans. All permits, variances, or approvals as required by law must be obtained before work may commence. 2, that the standards for landscaping and trees found on pages 40 to 41, carriage houses, garages, and accessory structures on pages 34 to 35, walkways, driveways, and off-street parking on pages 50 to 51, fences and walls on pages 36 through 37, lighting on pages 42 to 43, and utilities and mechanical systems on pages 82 to 83 of the Montford Historic District Design Review Standards, adopted on April 14, 2010, and amended December 9, 2019, were used to approve this request. 3, the application does meet design standards for the following reasons. A, swimming pool will be located within an area of existing paving and will be screened by a wall and planting so as not to be visible from the street. B, swimming pool and surrounding paved area does not overwhelm the existing building and site and is compatible with the site and district. C, proportion of accessory structure is compatible with the primary structure in terms of height, footprint, and massing. Accessory structure is not more than 30% of the scale of the primary structure and is not taller than 1.5 stories. Accessory structure has traditional roof form, materials, and details compatible with the primary structure and other accessory structures in the district. E, new accessory structure will be sited in keeping with the historic pattern in terms of relationship to primary structures, traditional location of ancillary buildings, orientation, setback, retention of green space, and spacing between structures. F, new mechanical unit will be located adjacent to the accessory structure and will be screened. 4, that the action and improvements proposed in the application before us for certificate of appropriateness are congruous with the special historic character of the Montford Historic District.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we will vote by roll call. Vice Chair Spring,
Aye.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Oliva,
Aye.
Commissioner Falcon,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
No.
Commissioner Watkins.
Aye.
Myself, aye as well. That motion carries.
Based upon the foregoing findings and for the reasons set forth herein, I move that a certificate of appropriateness be issued with the following conditions. 1, mechanical unit specifications will be submitted for staff review and approval.
We have a second?
I second.
Vote by roll call. Vice Chair Spring,
Aye.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Oliva,
Aye.
Commissioner Falcon,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
No.
Commissioner Watkins.
Aye.
Aye. Myself, aye as well. And that motion also carries. We will move on to our next item on the agenda. I think Michael and Stacy, Alex will follow up with you in the next couple of days or so regarding your CA. Next item of business is new business in St. Dunstan's at 80 St. Dunstan's Road. Alex, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Chair Kite. The application for this address is pretty straightforward. So I'm just going to go over a couple of things. This house was constructed in 2006. I know for many of you, this is probably the first application you've seen in St. Dunstan's. We don't get very many for this neighborhood, but so what we're talking about today is just this little side porch that's on the north elevation of this house. They want to enclose it. It's currently screened. They just want to enclose it with siding and windows to make it an interior living space. So I've just included the elevation drawings here. On the left, existing and proposed. Side elevation, existing and proposed. I communicated with Mr. Pissarra, the applicant, about a couple of things, one being that we need the rear elevation drawings, as well as the window specifications. And I don't think he was able to get the drawings in time for the meeting today. I'm not noting any concern about approving that at the staff level because this is a non-contributing structure. I think that if the commission is comfortable with staff okaying the fenestration on the rear elevation, then I'm totally fine with that. And then we can just accept the window specifications as a condition as well. But I'm not noting any concerns regarding the request, but happy to answer questions if the commission has any.
Alex, just to confirm that the footprint of the proposed enclosure doesn't change from what's already there. Is that correct?
Correct. And I'm happy to pull up the floor plan if it's helpful, but it's just basically a little box that's on the side of the house, and it won't look any different except for that it will be enclosed with siding and windows, but no change to the footprint at all.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, other questions for Alex?
Alex, could you pull up the picture of the proposed? Oh, that's it. Sorry. That one, I guess that's the east face, the lower right-hand corner?
That is the north face.
Oh.
But yeah, I think they could add fenestration there. I don't feel very strongly. This house has such funky fenestration to me. In the first place, it appears very contemporary to me. So I didn't go back to look at the notes from approval. And a lot of times our minutes from back then were not very detailed or helpful to reference anyway. So I did not note a concern on that. But if the commissioners feel like that they think it would be more appropriate to add windows on that side, we can certainly talk about it. I'm not sure if that's where you're going. Sorry if I jumped ahead of you, but
I was thinking that we would talk about it later. No, that's all fine. Yeah, and the windows on the if that was east or north, then that's west. The front facing windows are typically when is it to match? It seems like the historic character of those side structures on a main house had fuller windows, and I know that there's a history of smaller squares, but your feeling on that it's because it's in line with the other windows.
Yeah, sure. I didn't take a hard stance on the fenestration for this one, since in the first place the fenestration appears more contemporary than kind of what we typically see being consistent with historic styles of windows on houses. I think the placement of the other three casements on the front of the house is a little bit unusual to me, so it sort of balanced that out in a way. But it's also, if you look at here, I'll pull up the floor plan. If you look at the floor plan, this is the front of the house as a bathroom. And so that's why they're proposing the casement windows there. I'll let Mr. Casera speak to this because I don't know what the flow of the floor plan is coming into the space. You can see how the doors up here on the top right. I don't know why you can't see my cursor, but maybe you can see it over here. I don't know if there's a way that could be like flip-flop to where it looks like, double hung windows on the back, if that could be flip-flopped somehow to where those go on the front of the house instead. I'll let him to speak to how, what the flow is like coming from the rest of the house into the space. But as you can see from the floor plan here too, that they want to do the bed and the bathtub on that side where they're proposing no windows. So that hence the reasoning for that. In any case, I don't know that I can really speak to that anymore without knowing if they could change the interior programming. So I'll let John address that. But if you guys have other questions, I'm happy to try to answer.
Alex, I've got a question. Hopefully you can clarify in the north elevation drawing, the proposed north elevation. In the peak of the gable there, where there's the two white triangles, do you know if that is a different type of siding or the same?
That I will also ask John to clarify on that for us too.
I can jump in if you want. Yes, I'll answer both questions. On the front, the approach view, we were going to do those 24 by 24 inch windows to match the other 24 by 24 inch windows. And yes, as Alex said, it's mostly just because of the view Being a bathroom, you wanted it at least, kind of shoulder above kind of a thing, not a full kind of a body view being in the bathroom. They went ahead and decided to go a little bit bigger. I have those specs, Alex. I'm sorry that you didn't get them in time, but I sent them to you. They are 29 wide by 36 high. So they're going to be a little bit bigger than the 24 by 24. They're going to be a little bit more rectangular. So kind of in the middle in a way. Both of those are going to be, clad windows that matches the other style, nothing funky. And then back to your question, Emily, on the side view there, the left-end view. We are trying to get they currently have a gable from the screened-in porch, and so they want to kind of keep that light. So we're going to get fixed glass to go in there. So it'll give them that light, but also with the bedroom and all that, it'll also give them the privacy from the street. I should show you a site plan, but the site plan, they have a pet cemetery over there too, on that side. So it's not like I don't know, unless you like Pet Cemetery growing up, but it has that beauty, but also there's not really much of a view. The backside, that's where the view is. So it would, I think appropriately, it's positioned right to have the bigger windows on that back view, because you face a lot of the landscape and topography. You're really high and so forth. So that's why they wanted to put the bathroom in the front, and then the bigger windows and bedroom in the back.
Thank you.
John, the double doors that are shown on that floor plan going into the bedroom, that's the current location of those double doors?
Yeah, they have a exterior double door right now, and we're just going to flop that with a French door interior, kind of a French door look.
You can see, folks, there's some other additional photographs in the application packet that's in our photo folder that show some interiors of that screen porch that show what the doors look like right there, as well as what's kind of in the gable end already.
Is the land to the north that's all cemetery and not to be developed?
As far as I know. There's a little, the easement, of course, is right there. And I don't think there's any lots. I haven't looked at the GIS, but I believe that's all restricted. But Alex or somebody else could probably know better.
Commissioners, are there other questions for the applicant? Okay, I'm going to open the floor for a public comment.
Chair, there are no callers in the queue.
Okay, I'm going to close the floor for public comment. Commissioners, any further discussion?
I'll just say, Commissioner Hornaday, it might take me a minute to look. It just, when you pull up the property card, it's owned by the Episcopal Church, and it just says land use code, cemeteries, burial, and there are not any links to the deed directly out of the property card, so it'll probably take me a little bit to find it, but it looks like that's what it's. There must be some restriction on it.
When I went by, I wasn't paying attention to that. I thought it was further down the street. So that's all I need.
Okay.
Does anyone have thoughts on the glass in the gables? Are we thinking that's not a concern because it's non-contributing building and because it's got a more modern look already?
No, I agree with you, Emily, on our Commissioner Spring on that. Because of the bracketing on the entrance and the bracketing that exists on the picture we just looked at, there could be a feature there that makes up for that big blank wall. That is a big blank wall that you see, and we'll see in perpetua until the pet cemetery goes away, which no time soon. It's a big blank wall. And I don't think glass does the same as sort of an architectural structural solution that I don't have. Is that where you're headed?
Yeah, I guess I was concerned about the appropriateness of the large expanse of glass up in the eaves, or up in the gable. Just I don't know. I don't know if you'd really see anything else like that in the neighborhood that I can think of off the top of my head. Like a standard fenestration would seem more common.
I'll just throw a cod in here, not to. Hopefully, I didn't interrupt you. But we did talk about, because of vaulting the interior space, and so if we did that, it's going to be hard to do at the bathroom because you got to have a wall, right? So we did talk about centering a window in the center of that gable, whether it's a octagon or a circle or something like that in the center, and that is a definite option that they would be open to, and it might look better.
I think that might be heading in the wrong direction, but I'm not an architect. But to put an octagon or circle, I'm gonna.
Too many squares.
That's introducing another squirrel into the bag.
I mean, from a simply design standpoint, and as an interior designer, I think what you've come up with would be very nice looking, but as far as fitting in with what's already there in the neighborhood, I do have some concern about the glass triangle. How do other commissioners feel?
I just want to ask John a question. Do you think that if there's space to put, it looks like if you're looking at the floor plan, there's room to, if you're looking at the northeast corner, like on the right hand side of the bed, if you were facing the bed, standing in the room, there's room for at least like a casement window, or maybe like a narrow double hung, kind of like what's on the on the rear elevation, like you can see of that, that side of the rear elevation. Yeah, and then just finishing the gable end with siding.
Yeah, I think that could be an option. Or I was even thinking of two rectangular awnings kind of above the bed. So one kind of in the shower, right there on that side, and then a matching one on the left, which would be above the bedroom. Awning meaning that it, opens from the bottom.
Sure, that could work.
Yeah, I think that a more traditional kind of punched opening rather than sort of the glazing in that gable end is probably more consistent. I think it's certainly more consistent with the house because the main portion of the house has a hipped roof. The strong roof line is really a hip, which gives you a little bit of a different feel than the gables. And I see, obviously in the back there's another gable, but it would be interesting to see the rear elevation and how that gable, what's happening in that gable there as well. Because I do think it needs a little bit more traditional windows.
Right. I don't know. Can I share my screen? I can show you the existing rear elevation, not a drawing, but a picture if you want me to. Or is that not allowed?
Alex, you're muted.
Do you want me to stop sharing, John?
It's up to you, Commissioner Kite, if you want me to show that picture or not.
Yeah, I think that might be helpful. Might help us understand better what's happening in the back.
John, if you want to share your screen, go for it, or you can email me the picture, whatever's easiest for you.
Just give me a second. It's going to show you real quick, and then I'll flip the thing. Can you see that picture? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the rear elevation, and you see the screened-in porch over there to the right. And so what we're going to do is we're basically going to mirror that square in the middle and we're going to sandwich it between those two kind of double hungs. So you're going to have a 30 by 60 on each side, and then you're going to have the 60 by 60 window right in the center over there. So it's going to be like pretty much a wall of windows. So I'll start with one double hung and then one fixed big square and then another double hung right there.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Spring, the more I see the back too, the more I think having some kind of more traditional rectangular windows in line with the fenestration that's around the rest of the house rather than up in the gable is probably more appropriate.
Definitely easier to do.
Probably more cost effective as well.
Yeah.
It might be, yes.
Commissioners, other questions or comments?
No additional comments. Good conversation, though.
Alex, are those changes something you're comfortable reviewing? You had already mentioned the windows on the rear elevation. Presume the same would be true for the side.
Yes, I'd be totally fine with it. I think, again, because this is a newer construction building, and knowing what the plan is for the rear elevation, that was helpful, John, because I think you guys could probably pretty easily visualize that, and then maybe just adding a window or two to that north elevation in the where we talked about and finishing the gable with siding. Does that sound like what you all are considering to be okay to approve? Okay. Yeah, as long as I have that direction from you guys, I'm good. Sorry, go ahead.
Alex, what's your understanding of the front? Is the front fine as is, or is that changing? I missed that.
Nobody else brought that up, so do any of the other commissioners have thoughts about the front?
Sounds like John articulated a change in the size of those windows, but nothing about the placement of those.
And those were casement that awning up. Uh-oh. Another exhibit.
So those are a little bit bigger than the existing kind of square proportion windows on that front elevation. Is that true, John?
Muted.
John, we can't hear you if you're talking.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was having a great conversation. No, I'm kidding. Yes, these are a little bit bigger. Those square ones were 24 by 24, and these are 29 by 35, a little bit bigger. Which I think it's going to look better. Those 24 by 24, they're cute, but they're cute, if that makes sense. They're a little small.
John, were you able to, I know I sent you a comment about the lifestyle line from, oh gosh, I've now forgotten which window manufacturer.
Yeah, George with Pella. Yeah. So
Pella, they're aluminum clad?
Yeah, we generally put the vinyl in for the bathroom, the shower, just for mold and stuff. But yeah, we're happy to do the clad, and we'll just do like PVC trim on the interior and stuff, and make sure it drips away and all that. We might even tile it. So yes, we're okay with that.
Commissioners, are we ready for a motion?
I can make a motion, just gotta find it. All right. Madam Chair, based upon the evidence presented to this commission, including Exhibit A, application, project description and photographs, 8 pages. Exhibit B, floor plans and elevation drawings, 4 pages. Exhibit C, window specifications, received November 10th, 2021. Exhibit D, photograph of rear elevation, and the commission's actual inspection and review of subject property by all members except. I move that this commission approve the certificate of appropriateness based on the following. 1, that the application is to convert existing screened porch on north elevation to an interior living space. Siding material, trim, roofing material, and windows will match existing. All work will be in accordance with attached drawings and plans. All permits, variances, or approvals as required by law must be obtained before work may commence. 2, that the standards for non-contributing structures found on pages 62 to 63 in the St. Dunstan's Historic District Design Review Standards, adopted September 12, 2012, were used to evaluate this request. 3, this application does meet the design standards for the following reasons. A, proposed alterations to the non-contributing structure are compatible with the size, scale, color, material, and character of the neighborhood, the building, and its environment. 4, that the action and improvements proposed in the application before us for a certificate of appropriateness are congruous with the special historic character of the St. Dunstan's Historic District.
Second, Lazarus.
We will vote by roll call. Vice Chair Spring.
Aye.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner.
Aye.
Commissioner Oliva.
Aye.
Commissioner Falcon.
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn.
Aye.
Commissioner Watkins.
Aye.
Myself, aye as well. That motion carries.
Based upon the foregoing findings and for the reasons set forth therein, I move that a certificate of appropriateness be issued with the following conditions. 1, revised elevation drawings will be submitted for staff review and approval. 2, clad window specifications will be submitted for staff review and approval.
Second, Lazarus.
We'll vote by roll call. Vice Chair Spring.
Aye.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner.
Aye.
Commissioner Oliva.
Aye.
Commissioner Falcon.
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn.
Aye.
Commissioner Watkins.
Aye.
Myself, aye as well. That motion also carries. John, I think Alex will follow up with you the next couple of days. And
Thank
we
you.
will move to the next item of business. This is also new business. We're moving back to the Montford Historic District to 61 Pearson Drive. And I will turn it to Alex.
Thank you, Chair Kite. This one is also a pretty straightforward request. Oops, skipping ahead, sorry. The request is for some window and door modifications on this existing structure on Pearson Drive. This is hopefully easy to follow if you read the notes accompanying, but essentially there is just some window swapping going on. They want to, these three are window swaps. And then, so this window is being moved here, this window being moved here. This green circle is a non-original vinyl window or aluminum. I can't remember what kind of window it was noted as in the plans, but it's not original to the structure. And then the blue circle is, excuse me, an existing door opening on the south elevation of the sunroof. And it's also not an original door opening. So the proposal is to enclose this opening with siding and then install a new door on the rear where the lower red circle is in that existing, well, not within the existing opening, but in the existing location of that window opening. So I didn't include very much in the presentation because I feel like it's almost more confusing, at least it was for me, to kind of move through the photographs, but I can certainly pull up any of that or the, I think I meant to include elevations in here and I just didn't. But essentially here is the current rear elevation and this is the proposed. Carl and I went back and forth a few times about the doors and I'm not sure we landed in a particular place. my note to him is this house has some craftsman elements, including like the low pitched roof and the 3/1 double hung windows. And my thought was perhaps this multi-light door was not necessarily the best choice for this style of house, that I suggested just a single light door would probably be a better option without dividers in it. So I'm not sure if Carl and I are on the same page about that, because I don't think we ever landed in a space. He did send me a salvage door that I did also say I didn't think was the right style for this house too, but I'll let Carl chime in on door choice in a moment. And then this is just a drawing of the south side elevation where this is the existing non-original door that's being removed and then covered with siding. And I think there's the photographs of the other side. This is the existing window that will be moved to replace the aluminum window that's on the north side of the house. Here's a photo of the casement window that's going to be moved over to the south side of the house. This is the location of where the door will go. Photos of the location of where the this will become a casement window and this door will go away. So I don't know about you, but it was almost more confusing to me when I was trying to look at it through the lens of the photos. So easier for me to understand looking at the floor plan, but happy to go back and forth as needed. And hopefully I didn't confuse you more, but if you have other questions, let me know.
So Alex, we're moving 2 existing windows and we're adding a new door. Is that right?
Relocating 2 existing windows.
Yes.
So the green over here is the aluminum window.
Mm-hmm.
This window that was the double hung on the back of the house will go here. This is a casement window that's original that will go in that location, and then there'll be siding, to enclose the opening. And then this opening will go away entirely, and then there'll be a new door installed in the location of where this casement window was.
Okay, I think I got it.
So I've not noted any concerns. I think, it's all limited to the rear elevation. It's not going to cause any inconsistency with the fenestration, just generally speaking, in terms of how it reads in relation to the other elevations of the house. So.
Commissioners, other questions for Alex? Okay. Kim, is there anything else that you'd like for us to consider?
No, I appreciate your time today. And just to let you know, on that back door, we are amenable to whatever is befitting the style of the house.
Mm-hmm. Commissioners, are there any questions for the applicant?
Kim, I'm sorry, I forgot that you were here and not Carl.
That's completely okay. Thank you, Alex.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to open the floor for public comment.
Chair, there are no callers.
Okay, we'll close the floor for public comment. Commissioners, any other comments, questions, conversation?
I think pretty self-explanatory, and I would say it's probably fine to approve with maybe a condition that staff approve whatever door they end up selecting, or help guide them with selecting the new door.
Alex, is that something that you're comfortable with?
Yes, absolutely.
With the exception of green type on white paper, I find nothing wrong with the application either.
Shall I make a motion?
Sounds like it.
Madam Chair, based upon the evidence presented to this commission, including Exhibit A, application and project description, 3 pages, Exhibit B, floor plan and elevation drawings, 5 pages, Exhibit C, photographs, 4 pages, Exhibit D, door specifications, 4 pages, Exhibit E, is there an Exhibit E?
No Exhibit E.
Okay. And the commission's actual inspection and review of subject property by all members except. I move that this commission approve the certificate of appropriateness based on the following. One, that the application is to relocate existing four-light casement window from rear elevation to existing window opening on rear elevation. Install new approved design wood door in location of four-light window opening. Replace non-original aluminum window on north elevation with existing 4/1 wood window from rear elevation. Remove non-original door and south elevation and enclosed door opening with wood shake siding matching existing. All work will be in accordance with attached drawings and plans. All permits, variances, or approvals as required by law must be obtained before work may commence. 2, that the standards for windows and doors found on page 84 to 85 in the Montford Historic District Design Review Standards adopted April 14, 2010, and amended December 9, 2019, were used to evaluate this request. 3, this application does meet the design standards for the following reasons. A, windows and doors being modified are on rear or non-character defining elevations of the structure. B, windows and doors being removed are not original to the structure. C, existing original windows are being reused. D, new door will be wood and is compatible with the historic character of the building. 4, that the action and improvements proposed in the application before us for a certificate of appropriateness are congruous with the special historic character of the Montford Historic District.
Second, Lazarus.
We'll vote by roll call. Vice Chair Spring.
Aye.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner.
Aye.
Commissioner Oliva.
Aye.
Commissioner Falcon.
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn.
Aye.
Commissioner Watkins.
Aye.
Myself, aye as well, and that motion carries.
Based upon the foregoing findings and for the reasons set forth therein, I move that a certificate of appropriateness be issued with the following condition: that revised door specifications will be submitted for staff review and approval.
Second, Lazarus.
We'll vote again by roll call. Vice Chair Spring.
Aye.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner.
Aye.
Commissioner Oliva.
Aye.
Commissioner Falcon.
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn.
Aye.
Commissioner Watkins.
Aye.
Myself, aye as well. That motion also carries.
Chair Kite, it's Janice. You opened the floor for public comment, right? I just may have missed
I
it.
did.
Okay, thank you.
I think I did.
You did. It was
I did.
open for like 10 seconds.
Yeah, that's why I missed it.
Yeah, it went by
Okay.
quick.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, that concludes the hearing for 61 Pearson Drive. Kim, I think Alex will follow up with you in the next couple of days, and we will move to the next item on our agenda, also new business in Montford at 43 Elizabeth Place. And I will turn the floor over to Alex.
Thank you, Chair Kite. This is an application for new construction on a vacant lot on Elizabeth Place. It's about 0.14 acre vacant parcel, almost it's really in the same vicinity as the more recent new construction project we reviewed on Elizabeth Place. Similar lot size and constraints. So I organized my slides in kind of a weird way, so I'm going to jump around a little bit, but just to orient you. Here's the site plan, Elizabeth Place on the bottom, structure here, some parking here, and then Reed Creek is back here, so there's a stream buffer along the rear of this property, and you can see it here on the parcel map that it's located nearby to Elizabeth Street, and this is Broadway back here, and the back of this property is the edge of the historic district boundary. So streetscape rendering, just to going to go through these a little bit quickly, and then we can talk through the details. Elevation drawings here. So probably the bulk of my staff report is related to concerns about the overall design of the project. Scott Bartholomew is here with us as the project architect, and I have relayed all of my concerns to him. We talked about some of the things during our pre-app meeting, but then also in a follow-up email, I noted to him all of the details of my concerns. So really, I think this is kind of where we started with the other one on Elizabeth Place, in a way where I was having some hang up about the overall design reading clearly as a specific architectural style. I think with some tweaking, this one has potential to kind of be this like a version of a Queen Anne. But I think in part, if you look at the front elevation, the proportion of windows is a little bit funky in terms of how they not only relate to one another, but also what might be traditional to a Queen Anne style structure. I think also the shed roof overhang as a front entryway is not really successful in uniting the design style. And I think the brackets are also pretty unusual in terms of being consistent with this architectural style, and also with the double brackets. I'm not sure I've ever seen that before. And then the other note I had about the front elevation specifically was related to the transom windows, or the windows splitting the trim board is more of a contemporary feature. I think the right elevation, I think that the punching of the casement windows could also use some tweaking. I mean, I think we see, plenty of casement windows, case in point being the house in St. Dunstan's we were just looking at. But perhaps maybe one of those becomes a double hung, just so that is broken up a little bit, and not just the kind of the straight line of casement windows. The rear elevation, at first I was a little bit confused by it in terms of the way that the rear portion comes out. But essentially there's the first floor has a screen porch. Scott, I'm going to mute you while I'm talking, if that's okay.
Oh, sure.
I'm getting some feedback. This kind of sticks out, and then there's the second story porch on top of this area. And so this area beneath is all a area where is shown on the site plan as parking. If you can see where the two arrows lead to, it's because essentially it creates kind of this carport with the way that the house extends out over that. I'm not necessarily noting a concern about that. It's just something that I hadn't seen before. I think because it's on the rear elevation, it's doable. But I think it definitely overall the design needs some tweaking to more clearly read as an architectural style. Let's see, what else did I note? I noted to Scott that I had to have some concerns about the materials proposed in the first packet, or this is really like what they're asking from you all as for kind of a preliminary feedback on the application. But they included vinyl windows, which is not, the commission has never approved. The siding should also be smooth versus textured, and they're proposing staggered edge shake, which in the past we required it to have a straight edge. And there's also concrete porch flooring, which is more contemporary with regards to this particular style of house. As far as the site plan is proposed, I know that they have a tight space. This is, again, very similar to the other Elizabeth Place project we looked at. So I'm kind of open to obviously what the commission's feedback is here. But I did note as I did in the other application, that there is a pretty large amount of hardscaping. I think that at the very least, they should have at least some softening. I know that the driveway is kind of right, it's going to be right up against the house, right? But perhaps the paving could be moved out a little bit. It certainly looks like this portion of what will be like the carport, if you will, it will be wide enough to have narrow that area of paving a little bit and add some landscaping in there to soften it. And perhaps a pervious paver is more appropriate back here than just the whole thing being concrete, because it is such a large swath of hardscaping for a lot this small. So in any case, those are, I think, all of my notes to you all, but happy to answer any questions that you have.
Commissioners, any questions for Alex? Scott, I know we got you sworn in the first round of folks, but it looks like some other folks for this application have joined, Laura and Mike, maybe. So we need to maybe do a quick pause if Nora and to speak. We want to get you sworn in before we move forward. So I will read you the oath, and then I'll ask you individually by name to affirm. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the information you present during the hearing for a certificate of appropriateness before the Historic Resources Commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Lenora Rand.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Mike Tomeo.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Hopefully I sort of pronounced your name, your last name correctly.
You did great, thank you.
Correctly. Okay. Scott or Lenora or Mike, is there anything else that you'd like to add to Alex's report for the benefit of the commissioners?
Chair Kite, I was just going to add that it looks like Gary Rand is also there with
that. We'll do one more. We'll do one more swearing in, and we'll pick up Gary there too. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the information you present during the hearing for a certificate of appropriateness before the Historic Resources Commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Gary.
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. We weren't on video. I couldn't see who was here. All right. Again, Scott or any of the other applicants, is there anything else that you'd like to add to Alex's staff report?
Yes, I would like to clarify a couple things. Thank you. To start with, thank you for having me and all of us. We look forward to going through this process with you all. It is true what Alex said. We really are here on a preliminary basis. We would like to, we're looking to get general massing, overall intents of what we're doing on the property, as well as the house itself, and dealing with details later. We did not provide a full submittal, and so therefore we weren't really expecting to walk away in any way with a certificate of appropriateness. Alex, if you don't mind, could you bring back up the site plan? A couple things just to sort of follow up with and clarify. Particularly blurry, or maybe it's me. What we're looking at is as far as coming off the road, is a driveway down. This lot slopes rather significantly from front to back in the first 30 feet of the lot. And then it rather levels off down beyond that point. So our drive actually drops from the road down significantly, which we did see on those side elevations. And then we're basically using an extension of the house, yes, as a carport effectively. Due to that stream buffer in the back, we have a very limited front to back dimension to fit those cars in. and get them turned around and get them back out. So that's a lot of what really was driving some of this plan. As it's proposed here, yes, the drive is concrete, but only basically to the back edge of the lower level, which is in here stippled with a hatching. Once we got to the motor court, we were actually thinking about some moving more to the traditional gravel of Montford area. So just, sort of some clarifications. One thing that was noted in my write-up on this, my house description, we have actually left off all of the landscaping off of the back of this lot. If you guys are familiar, they're building that apartment complex or apartment building right on the other side of the creek here. They restored the creek, but they are not done, and they have a lot of work to do with regard to revegetating both banks of the creek. And I think they probably have some buffering to go in as well. And as opposed to planning a landscape plan without knowing what's back there, I just decided to punt and say, look, it doesn't really make sense to move forward with anything back there. So you'll notice all of the landscaping is just left off of the back of the house at this point. That is not the ultimate intention. That's just where we are at the moment in this preliminary design phase. I'm looking at the site plan, thinking if there's anything else I want to bring up here. I don't think there is. Gary and Lenora, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Not really, except, hello from Oak Park, Illinois, and we're all excited to be here and really excited about this project and working with all of you and really excited about being in Montford. So I don't think we have anything else to add, Scott, unless you.
I just want to say that we are very excited about coming to Asheville and to Montford. And Lenore and I were married in Black Mountain and Montreat, and we met over there, and we have lots of friends in the area, and then we've spent some time in Montford at some Airbnbs there. So we really walked around the neighborhood and have fallen in love with it, and love these houses and hope we can build something that really fits.
We live in Oak Park, Illinois, which is a lot of Queen Anne's and prairie style, and so we do love a lot of the style that we see there. So that's what we're really going for. So great to be here. Thanks.
Alex, would you mind bringing up the elevations again? The intent of this overall design was not one to actually pick a historically defined style. This was what I consider so prevalent in Montford as well as throughout Asheville, but very much so in Montford. When we got to the 20s and 30s of the 1920s and 30s, styles became very hybridized, and that's where this concept is coming. I don't know that I could ever really. There's an aspect to this lot that doesn't allow me, in my mind, to create a Queen Anne here because I don't have that rambling front facade. We're limited by about 28 feet here. Is all that we can deal with. So I don't have a wide front porch. I've actually tried some different entry roofs over that front porch on my drawing board, and they did not work just due to, and a lot of, again, it comes back to the size. My L shape, my cross gable here, it's obviously very, very narrow. I don't get a lot of wing on that side of the house. So anyway, just as far as that goes, obviously, as I've kept a very strict window pattern on the front, but it's definitely broken down and more driven by the interior aspects of the home as we move around the sides and back. And so, but one thing I did want to clarify as well is there actually are no casement windows on here. These are double hung 2/2 is what is here. It might read as a 4 light casement, but it's really a double hung 2/2 is what's being proposed. As far as the detailing, as I was saying, this is again something that's preliminary. We're trying to get our general massing in place. Some of the bracketry, some of the eave details are again this hybridized concept. But ultimately, what I've got is a stucco foundation and lower level, and then 2 stories of lap siding with a shingle in the gable. And something also to note that I did, and I've told the Rands about this. Being this is preliminary, I've asked for some things that I knew were pushing the envelope, though I don't know that we really even want to do them. The vinyl windows, I wasn't sure. I actually had asphalt driveway, which I found in the guidelines was prohibited, so I changed that out. But I had actually pushed a couple of things, the staggered shingles, some things like that, that they weren't meant to be sort of, they were just really intended to push the envelope a little bit, see if you give me that, you'll probably give me straight shingles. If you give me an asphalt driveway, you'll definitely give me a concrete driveway, that kind of thing. And so anyway, just to sort of give you a sense of where we are in our intentions here. The only other one I guess I would like you to bring up, Alex, I think is not the streetscape, but there was a perspective on probably the last page of the drawings I sent you.
I think it's on the lower level floor plan sheet also, yeah.
There we go. Yeah, so this is sort of really giving us a sense of the general massing of this house, more so than the straight on elevations. As Alex was saying, it's really hard to kind of see what's going on in the back. And I didn't shoot a perspective from the back, I guess partly because it's outside of Montford jurisdiction, but really the intent is to sort of get a sense of what's going on here. There's a couple things that are a little bastardized by my computer CAD program. What I've got up at the upper level is a shingle flare that is being broken by those transom windows there on that front master bedroom in the upper level. It's showing a lot a lot more detail there than would actually be there. It would really be just a shingle flare with a broken detail, and I would love to present some maybe some photographs of some. There's a detail I've got in my mind that is from this. I'm pretty sure it's from Montford, but I know it's from Asheville. That is how that actually works and why. And it's my consideration is rather appropriate when again in this hybridized we're breaking from the traditional way and but using similar motifs, similar materials and that kind of thing. Our overall color scheme as well is it is very intended to be very earth tones, natural materials, earth tones. We're working toward a very dark window, sort of a muted green, green gray. I didn't have the pens to make this look as good as I wanted to, as far as the coloring. Again, I was trying to get this as a sense of how it fits with the adjacent structures. It is in line effectively with the fronts of both of them. One is actually closer than the 15-foot setback. The other one's pretty much right on 15 feet. And we're intending that our front porch is also right on 15 feet. So we're really in line on the front there. But our overall scope, I changed out the sky on this. There's actually a whole lot of power lines right through there, but in taking a panoramic shot, those power lines got really weird looking and very distracting. So I just changed out the sky, as you can see. And there's actually a whole lot of, there's a lot of power going across that view right there. Are there any questions or comments?
Commissioners, any comment or questions, for the applicant?
Yeah, I think as you can see in this picture, the porch across the street and the porch one north, I would like to see a little bit more of a welcoming, sort of a porch neighborhood setting, as staff mentioned, instead of the entry pad kind of porching that's there. I think the overall upper level looks nice, and that I agree with staff on that row of punch out casements is a little out of the window patterns in the neighborhood. Even like the last property we looked at on Pearson, there was a range of windows on that side that were various sizes. It's similar to this, but just with a range of windows that were all scaled a little more proportionately to the space. So the porch windows on the, I guess it's the north elevation, south elevation, and those are some of my off the top of following the standards. Would be nice to get closer to that, and I'll hold off.
I'm gonna pause for just a quick minute if we don't have any real direct questions for the applicant to open the floor for public comment.
Chair, there are no callers.
Okay, we'll close the floor for public comment and continue on with some discussion and feedback, I think, for the applicant, which is Scott. I appreciate you clarifying that that's really the intention of today's presentation, is to give you all some feedback and some guidance on how to continue to develop the project, in a direction that is in alignment with the guidelines or the standards for the district. So, from my perspective, I think Alex, and Scott both, it's helpful to a little bit put it into a context of some kind of an architectural language. We've talked about Queen Anne. I think that there might be some elements of that could help as you continue to develop and study the window placement, that sort of strong delineation between floor levels. Obviously, in the really grand Queen Anne's that do tend to ramble and have a much broader footprint, there's a lot of strong porch lines on that first level that help to articulate the two floors. I do think there's not a lot of precedent for kind of breaking that line where you've delineated that sort of shingle flare there. Most of the windows on Queen Anne's are pretty well lined up along kind of a ribbon around each floor level, with a moment or two of something that really departs from that rhythm. You can see some evidence in some of the grander Queen Anne's of differently shaped windows that sort of interrupt that kind of a ribbon there. I do think that certainly, replicating a historic Queen Anne is really not what we're recommending or not what we're suggesting necessarily, but there might be some things that help to give some order to how the windows are articulated and how the color transition happens on the house and how the change in materials and other things might be able to happen there. I think those might be things, as I look at the windows, that might be helpful, that do start to pull themselves from a Queen Anne kind of a language, in the absence of y'all articulating something that is closer to a, in terms of language, just to what you were looking for. So if we're off base in drawing from Queen Anne, then we can have that conversation as well, if you want to be going in a different direction. But
I think there are probably some really good examples of like very simplified like projects where they're trying to accomplish the same thing, Scott, on like a narrow lot where they didn't have a lot of room to wrap a porch necessarily, but maybe carried it all the way across the front. Just a more simplified version of that. And I think there were two things that I just want to add to the commission that I left out of my notes when I was going through them. Is I did note to Scott that I thought the color palette could maybe use some tweaking. If you aren't familiar in the Montford standards, there is the section that goes through by each architectural style, and it breaks down how paint color was historically typically applied to like the body versus trim and those sorts of things. So if any of you find that helpful, that's in the section pertaining to the neighborhood description where that outlines architectural styles that were found historically in the district. The other thing, I don't want to go to veer you guys off course or anything, but I just wanted to note before, since I left this out, but I did note that the front walkway is pretty wide. It takes up a fair amount of space here. I think when I measured it out, it was, and maybe I measured it incorrectly, Scott, but it was 5.5 feet wide. So just a note, I meant to include that in my notes on the hardscaping, but just that I think that front yard could use some work in terms of minimizing the amount of paving in that area too. And those are my only other two notes, and I'll be quiet and let you guys continue your discussion.
Hey, Alex, would you mind putting back up the elevations? Thanks. I wanted to address overall massing of the structure, and a concern I have about the carport on the lower level. So looking like from the side elevations, it seems to me that having a little bit more solid, a little bit more filled space down there would help the structure seem more grounded. I kind of feel like the back end is floating, which I mean, technically it kind of is, but I don't think that's something that I've really seen, unless one of the other commissioners can correct me, in Montford, is sort of this carport underneath and house, on piers above. It has more of a Florida type feel or a coastal feel. So I would maybe suggest, if you really want to keep it open, doing like a broader type of stone column or something to give it a little bit more grounding, a little bit more support down there, or maybe enclose the portion that is beneath the closed parts of the house. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say about that.
Thank you. I appreciate that comment. One of the, Alex, if you could pull up the lower level floor plan. I agree. I think it does need some mass down there. I think there's more. I've actually got sort of sections of wall between the cars, as opposed to just again that Florida column kind of idea, or post house on stilts. Let's see. It was the one with the rendering on it. That's the one. As you can see here, as I was verifying getting a car in and out, we're actually, to do what we need to do, we're actually parking beyond into the setback on the right side of this drawing, and then pulling back out to get out. So it's hard for me to enclose the two sides of this, but I do agree. I'd love to, yes, add some mass to those supports in between, and maybe some stone columns out there on the end. What we're seeing is just one car. The other car goes in the next bay, page north on this. But it was a study to verify that I can actually turn cars in and out of there on less than 3 point, or on 3 points or less, as opposed to multiple. So it's definitely just a very challenging lot to get cars in and out on and off the property, partly due to this stream setback that we can't drive on. And so we're really limited on our backup area there as well. So anyway, but I do appreciate it. I'll take it to heart as we proceed.
I do want to just clarify for the commission that I understand that we talk about parking all the time, which I can appreciate off-street parking, the desire for that, but they are not required to provide any parking at this location because they're within a mile of the central business district. So just a note on that for clarification on what is required by the UDO standards.
Alex, the other new construction that we had, that was the one that had the sort of multi-story porch on the very back, because it slopes down so far there. The previous one we just reviewed.
Yes, and they had porches on all 3 levels. So to Emily's point, or Commissioner Spring's point, it was finished on the ground floor, and that it just had an open porch extending off of the living space on that level.
I just have a couple comments. When I think of Queen Anne, I think of kind of a busy building with kind of a lot of contrast in some ways. A tower and a turret, which I understand is not here, but there's just sort of, it has this personality of busy kind of going on. So I think in the windows, if there was just a little more activity and contrast might help as well.
I would just say too, for just having been liaison to the commission for as many years as I have now, Scott, I can totally appreciate your, working towards a vernacular, because certainly there are plenty of vernacular houses in most historic districts, wherever you go, and there are plenty of great examples in Montford. I think the trickier thing is, I think first of all, it can be harder to achieve than reading more straightforwardly as an architectural style, but one thing I can have carried over from my predecessor, Stacy Merton, was that, most importantly is to kind of pick a style that reads more like the strongest kind of features, and then make sure to not add contemporary features, because that's very typical of how architecture is designed today. And I don't think it is compatible with the historic district in the way that the Montford standards require, because they're very, very specific. But that being said, I'm certainly not trying to discourage creativity or whatever ideas you all come up with. My point about the simplified Queen Anne is I was just kind of going around a little bit in street view, and I could see at least one new construction project. It looked like it was on the corner of Starnes and Elizabeth Place, that when it had a wraparound porch, but kind of similar form to this, as far as the front elevation, just kind of like a 2-bay, more simplified. And maybe if you could carry the porch across the front, that would help a good deal in terms of it reading more as a Montford style structure. Obviously there's a house next door that just has a little simplified roof form over the entryway, so that's certainly bound to, but wider porches are definitely more prevalent. I can think of, just as a note to the commission, I don't know if this seems at all familiar or maybe similar thing to compare, the house that you all approved recently at 23 Cumberland Circle, that aqua kind of blue house that had a more simplified entrance on it. I don't know if maybe I could share that with Scott offline of the meeting, to just as an example of something that was recently approved, or perhaps the one that was on Cortland and the one that you all recently approved on Elizabeth Place, just so you can, Scott, see some examples if that's helpful to you.
Well, the Cumberland Circle was another one of those kind of really challenging sites with lots of really strong topography that certainly influenced the proportions of the house and how the parking related and things like that. I think that's, we certainly see that all over Asheville, but that was another one that I remember talking quite a bit about the topography and how it was influencing kind of how the house, worked out. But
So regarding the conversation that has been going on about the front porch, I understand the constraint, the spatial constraint that they're working with, and although it would be nice to have that, bigger front porch, I wouldn't call what's drawn uncharacteristic of the neighborhood, because you do see homes with smaller entries. Also to the character of the home, I think going towards the more eclectic vernacular type style, I don't see an issue with that. I feel like there are homes throughout the neighborhood, even from the period of significance, that have a quite eclectic, can't really pinpoint the style. So, lots of different sizes and styles of windows on one building. So I guess to sum up, what I'm saying is I like the direction that you're going with the style. I think also the variation that you have in your roof lines also helps it kind of lean a little bit towards that Queen Anne type of feel. So as opposed to going strictly Queen Anne, I kind of like the direction you're going with the more eclectic type feel.
I am agreeing with a lot of the comments that have been coming through. I like the eclectic vernacular with a Queen Anne slant. I like the idea of some recent approvals. To me, the biggest thing that glares on the plans as they are, and what I would like to give comment on, is just the general pattern of the fenestration. And I think Alex brought that up at the very beginning, especially with all those smaller windows on the south side. But that to me is the biggest glaring klaxon of how it doesn't really echo the Montford feel, as having sort of less of a harmony with the fenestration pattern. And I know that is been discussed. I'm bringing it up because I think it's important.
I have a question for the applicants. These windows that we're talking about, what are those rooms? Is the windows being driven by the function of the rooms? Scott, you're on mute.
Yes, as far as the windows, sides and rear were more driven by the interior aspects of them. And if we look on the main level here, on the left side of this page, those high windows, two of them are in the kitchen above the cabinets. Two of them are in the dining room. Again, the idea is this house is 12 feet away from the neighbor's house as well. The neighbor's house right on their 6-foot setback, as is this one. So the idea was, we really don't want to just look right in their windows, and vice versa. So it was some high windows to bring in what we can with southern light when there's a house 12 feet away, just really to bring in some natural light. But yes, it was absolutely being driven by the interior spaces. A little further down, there's one more of those small windows, and that one's in that shower right there in that bathroom next to the stairwell. So that's what you're seeing there is some privacy, some just bringing in some natural light.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any other comments? Scott or any of the other applicants, do you have other questions of things that specific to getting the feedback that you're seeking that will allow you to sort of help the project progress? Is there anything that we've not addressed that you'd like us to?
I don't have anything further. I feel like I'm walking away with what I was looking for out of this meeting. I feel like at this point, there's no real hangups of the overall concept of the site, of the house itself. We're mostly talking about details, window sizes, window patterns, entry element, things like that. And so I think I'm pleased. I'll just put it that way, with where we are at this point today. I don't know that I have any real questions as far as or any further needs on my end. I look forward to getting back in front of you guys shortly.
I think we're good as well, and happy for the feedback, appreciate the feedback, and so I think we don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Okay. Procedurally, the next step would be for y'all to request a continuance.
And then the submittal deadline for the December meeting is next Wednesday, Scott. So do you want to, is it realistic for you to ask for a continuance to December, or do you think you need more time and want to continue till January?
I definitely want a continuance. Can I get back to you tomorrow?
Sure, if you want to just, well, we can just put, you can just request today a continuance to the December meeting, and then if you need more time, we'll just request a continuance on your behalf at the December meeting to January.
Let's do that. Let's look toward December, and then possibly really come back in January.
Okay, you just need to let me know by Wednesday of next week what your plan is. So
I will do that.
Awesome.
I guess we need to entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved, Vaughn.
Second, Sprang.
And we will vote by roll call. Vice Chair Sprang.
Aye.
Commissioner Lazaris.
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner.
Aye.
Commissioner Oliva.
Aye.
Commissioner Falcon.
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn. Commissioner Watkins.
Aye.
Myself, aye as well. That motion carries. And that, Alex, concludes all of our public hearings for certificates of appropriateness on the agenda. I think we have a couple of other items that we need to go over. Alex.
Thank you, Scott, and Gary, and Lenora. Just be in touch with me between now and Wednesday of next week.
You're very welcome, and I will be. Thank you.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Chair Kite. So I'm sure that some of you probably saw this funky thing in the folder that is titled SHPO Programmatic Agreement. So just to give you all a little bit of context, if there are those in the group that aren't familiar with Section 106 review, it is a subsection of the National Historic Preservation Act that requires that whenever there's a federal undertaking or any project that is utilizing federal funding, that there be a review process to document whether any historic resources will be impacted adversely, and if so, can we avoid those impacts, or can we figure out mitigation strategies? So this is like mostly we think of like the I-26 improvement, right? So like we're a what do we call it, Janice? We're a partner, this MOA with the SHPO and the Neighborhood Association and Preservation Society in terms of giving comments to the NCDOT and the SHPO regarding the effects of that project. So that's like kind of on a big scale. At a more localized level, where we typically interact with that, or where we most commonly interact with Section 106 review, is when HUD funding is being utilized. So like for our programs, we have a community development block grant program, we have a home program, continuum of care. So these are most often like really small rehabilitation projects on individual houses where they need window replacement or siding repair or roof replacement. And so without a programmatic agreement in place, those then have to go from our community development division to the SHPO, which takes them, they're very busy. So it oftentimes has this huge lag time by the time they are able to get back with our community development staff in terms of saying, yay or nay, this looks okay. So in years past, we had a programmatic agreement in place with the SHPO where the city's historic preservation planner could act in place of the SHPO essentially. And so the community development staff would send us their like information about the property address and the scope of work. And then we would review it to make sure that it's consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards, and then give our comments to them and sign off. And so that is what this programmatic agreement is about. We have been working on it for a really long time, like 3 years, despite how simple the scope of work is that falls under this umbrella. But it took us a while to get the actual draft agreement details ironed out, but we're pretty close. We've our community development staff have sent the letters. We're required to send letters to a whole bunch of people, including I think there's 4 tribes that we have to get comment from, as well as the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation. And there's a whole bunch of people CC'd on that the letter that went out, which Emily is one, in Preservation Society, and then a bunch of internal staff. So we're really excited to hopefully get this finalized and signed off soon. So as part of our process, we're just presenting it to you all for any comments and questions that you have. But for the most part, it kind of works like our minor work review, where we're not issuing a CA, but we are giving comment to our community development, or giving final sign off to them on these rehabilitation projects when HUD funding is being utilized. Anybody have questions, thoughts, comments?
As someone who's written a whole bunch of PAs, this is a beautiful, short, lovely PA, Alex.
Thank you. Thankfully we had something to model it after, an old one. So we're not trying to rewrite the book here.
So this doesn't affect sidewalks in Montford?
No.
Right? Okay,
no.
That's all. That I couldn't. It's beautifully written, but I now know what it means.
Yeah, it wouldn't ever involve you guys at all, but we wanted to make sure that you were aware of the agreement and had an opportunity to give comment. And there's the kitty cat friend I was hoping would appear, at least one of them. Where yours is today, Gail, but
It's not late enough for Gail's cat. He only shows up when it's time to be done.
He is already asleep in the other room.
He decided he doesn't need to wait for you on these Wednesdays. He just forgets you.
He's on non-daylight savings time. He's like, it's late.
This is my foster kitten who's up for adoption, by the way, in case anyone is looking.
Aww. I've got my hands full with my now 1-year-old kitty cat. She probably could use a friend, but I'm not sure I could use another friend right now. But that was all I had to note to you guys on the programmatic agreement. So if you guys don't have questions or anything about that, I'm happy to move on to if anybody has any other topics they want to talk about or comments or anything.
Do you have to get approval, Alex? I mean, I know we sent for comment to the other, the tribes and the Preservation Society. Are they just in the HRC's advisory capacity, just to say, yeah, we approve that the city's involved in this? Or
I mean, they can make some formalized. I mean, I guess maybe. So Emily, once we get all the comments back from the tribes, then it will get circulated for signatures, and Emily is included as a signee. So I don't know if we should maybe ask the commission to, if they authorize us to enter the agreement.
That you approve and authorize the chair to sign the programmatic agreement. I think that would be helpful from a process standpoint, because we are dealing with a HUD regulation.
Right.
So we want to make sure we have all the approvals that we need.
So we would make a motion to do that?
Yes, I think so. Just a motion. And again, you're acting in your advisory capacity, so it's not the quasi-judicial anymore. So you sounded a little familiar with what this is, Gail. So if you want to make the motion to approve and authorize the chair to sign.
Absolutely. I make a motion to approve and authorize the programmatic agreement between City of Asheville, SHPO, CDBG, Home, and COC. Programmatic agreement.
Okay.
I'll second.
And we vote. Vice Chair Sprang.
Aye.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner.
Aye.
Commissioner Oliva.
Aye.
Commissioner Falcon.
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn.
Aye.
Commissioner Watkins.
Aye.
Myself, aye. That does it.
I think
Yeah,
one
thank
thing
you.
I would just like to add for you guys is that we've had a vacant county seat open for a while now. We're technically, but within our CLG requirements, not supposed to exceed 60 days with vacant seats, and it's definitely been way longer than that. And I understand pandemic kind of shifts things around and makes everything weirder and people less available or whatever. But if you all know any professionals or individuals who might be a good fit or interested, please feel free to give them my contact info. I'm happy to chat with them. So just keep that in mind if you think of anybody.
And the city does a good job of sending out the vacancies for all their sort of boards and committees and things. The county, not so much. They sort of forget about us a little bit. Alex, is there, for a long time, we've been looking for someone with maybe some restoration carpentry experience. That might be we've had that. We've had folks that have filled that role in the past on the commission, and it's been valuable in terms of detailing and techniques for some of the work that we review. But at this point, taking anyone, with any sort of experience in historic stuff might be okay at this point.
I reached out to Jessie Landell. I do that one frequently when we have vacancies, and she said, it's a challenge for them to fill their vacancies as well. And I didn't realize that she probably thought I was trying to poach him, but Michael Logan of Logan Restoration, I tried to recruit him, but not realizing he also serves on the PSABC board. But they're definitely, and I've reached out to a few architects, but I certainly need to refocus my efforts around that. At one point in time we had Darren Waters for a minute, but even folks that work in kind of public history, that's helpful. We'd love to have a landscape architect, or it's just helpful to have a variety of backgrounds and experiences. And but I appreciate all of your dedication, of course, and just if you can network on this at all, great. If not, that's okay. But kind of getting a little bit desperate here since it's been so long.
The Asheville Home Builders Association, they have a lot to do with our board of realtors, so maybe I can try to get the info out to them.
That would be awesome. We would love that. Thank you.
We've had a couple of folks that I think it's, we filled it a couple times, the seat a couple of times, and folks have had just, too much on their plate and haven't been able to stick around for a whole term. So,
yeah. I know it's a time commitment, so thank you for all of your energy and efforts.
Anything else anybody would like to discuss? Okay, it's only 6 o'clock. Still time for dinner. Excellent. I feel like that is not always the case. So I guess we're done. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Vote by leaving. See you later.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, y'all.